Hello and welcome to the Johnversations Podcast. As always, I'm your host, John Connor, saying thank you for spending a little bit of time with us this week. Guys, this is episode number 60. So we are officially closer to 100 episodes than we are to 0. It's been a crazy ride. Just want to say thank you to everyone who's been supporting us since the very beginning. We started this at the beginning of 2020, if you can believe it. We've made it through the worst of a pandemic. Hopefully, get vaccinated, go out there, get your Fauci ouchie. Hopefully we're on the better side, but, still being safe, still doing things virtually. But just wanted to say thank you guys for all the love along the way. And super happy to be back after that long break with our second episode. So it's good to be here. It's good to see you guys. It's good to hang out. If this is your first time checking out the Johnversations Podcast, again, welcome. Super happy to have you. Glad you found us. Before we go any further, if this is your first time here, pause the episode, head over to Instagram, follow us at Johnversations, head over to Facebook, follow us at Johnversations, and then some dude I don't know, I don't care for, took the Johnversations handle on Twitter. So go over to Twitter, follow us at a Johnversation. Talk with us. We want the show to be interactive. We want to get your feedback. We want to know what you're liking, what you're not liking, who we should have on. Any feedback is good feedback. If you're not happy with the host of the podcast, sorry guys, there's not much I can do for you. So, but again, if this is your first time joining us, so happy to have you and super excited for my guests. I feel like I say that every week, but part of that might be because I book people that I think are awesome. So super excited for my guest this week. He is the owner, creator, founder of the Nashville-based coffee company, Camp Crystal Latte. You may have heard me talk about them before on the show, but they blend two of my favorite things, which is horror films and really good coffee. So I'm going to be sitting down with their founder, owner, John. We're going to be jumping in, talking about scary movies, talking about good coffee, passion, putting your all into something. It's going to be a very, very cool interview. I had a lot of fun doing it. Also, guys, if you're liking the show, you enjoy what we do every week, if you want to support us, you can always go to Johnversationspodcast.com and, go ahead, hit up the merch store, buy yourself a t-shirt, something like that. Or, if you like the show and you just want to give 99 cents, you can buy us a gas station cup of coffee if you like. There's a donate button. Hit it. We want to keep making the best content we can for you. So if you feel like donating, you definitely can. Or if you just want to tell your friends about it, just let them know, hey, there's a podcast I listen to. The host is okay, but the guests are great. So we'll go ahead and jump into it. But I hope you guys are feeling strong. Hope you're feeling loved. Hope you're healthy. And let's jump right into it with episode number 60. John, thank you so much for doing it, man. I really appreciate you being here. I've been a big fan of what you do for quite some time. Again, super excited to have the opportunity to chat with you. And, for folks who don't know, you run a company called Camp Crystal Latte, and I've got so many questions I want to dive into. You've managed to combine two of my favorite things, coffee and horror films. And so I was really excited to have you on to kind of dive in. I just wanted to say thank you for being here, man. How are you doing?
Dude, thanks for having me. Doing great, man. Stoked to be here.
That's awesome, dude. And most of the time I've got my Johnversations mug, but I do have my Camp Crystal Latte.
Yeah, nice,
dude. It's so good. I got the dark roast. I think I got the dark roast when you just had like the dark roast and the espresso. And I'm not a huge espresso guy, but I was like, I gotta try this coffee, and it was killer, man. I put it in the French press and got me through my day. So bravo.
Yeah,
definitely very good.
I appreciate it, man. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, it turned into a whole bunch from those two roasts.
Oh yeah, I mean, you've got 5 or 6 out now, right?
Yeah, I think we have 6. We have 6 now, and we got a couple more ready to roll. And then definitely we got a really big October plan.
Oh yeah. I imagine with pairing the two things, October is probably going to be like a push month for you guys.
Yeah, I think we launched March 31st, and pretty much since launch, I was like, I was already planning October through the whole thing. So yeah, we're a big Halloween family here. Probably couldn't tell. So we're real big on Halloween and the fall just in general. So it's going to be a good month, a good month for coffee releases.
That's awesome. Well, I wanted to ask, man, like, horror films, it seems like there's really no in between. It's either like you're somebody who loves them or you're somebody who hates them. So I was just kind of curious, like, when did you find your love of horror films? Because I know for me, I was young, but was it the same for you? Like, did you discover them as a kid or anything like that?
Yeah. So I remember before, I was so young, I was probably like 5 or 6, and I had this friend, Adam, and he had the older parents that were like pretty much senile when we were toddlers, you know what I mean? So they didn't know what we were doing when we were hanging out. And I was introduced to horror when I was young through Child's Play, Scream, Candyman, just like just those films that were coming out at that time. And ever since then, man, it's been really just, that's the comfort for me. I go to bed watching Hellraiser, you know what I mean? And weird shit like that. But that's really like the movies that I find the most comfort in. And, I that's what I watch to unwind, but yeah, it's definitely a young age at Adam's house, sneaking VHS tapes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I know, for me, when I was a kid, I remember I was born in 85. So this must have been like 91 or 92, but my dad showed me the first Nightmare on Elm Street. And I remember like being very young, and it scared me, but it scared me, but I was also like, I like being scared like this. You know what I mean? It was like a strange mix of emotion, because you're like, oh, I'm terrified of this dude with knives for fingers, but like I want to open my eyes and kind of see what's going to happen. And I'll have to see if I can find it. I think my mom has it, but the second or third one or something came out, and they had a guy who was dressed as Freddy Krueger, and he went around to all the Blockbusters, and they had like a boiler room like photo backdrop, so like you would stand and take pictures with Freddy Krueger. And I have a picture. I've got to be like, I can't be like 9 years old. I got to be at least younger than that. But I've just got this big smile on my face, and he's like, "What's up?" You know what I mean? So it's crazy how it gets infectious almost when you're that age, where it's like, oh man, like again, like I don't think I should like this, but I want to kind of see it out and stick it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I think when you're that age too, and you're introduced, at least for me and my friends, it was like, you watch, like Child's Play and Scream, and then you're like, what else is there? Like how much crazier does this get? And that kind of puts you down the rabbit hole. And, and I think when you get introduced to that, you're too young to really appreciate most of the film. It's probably most of the blood and the guts that really in. But yeah, man, absolutely. I don't know if I would have made it through meeting Freddy at that young age. So I still hate haunted houses.
Yeah, man, see, that's the thing. I love horror films. I do not want to go to a haunted house. Keep your goddamn hands off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do it, but like I love October, because it's just like, how many horror films can I watch? Like, it's almost like a challenge to be, and especially being married and having a kid. It's like, I'm the person in my house who likes them. So it's like, how can I fit in as many as I can in my free time? You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. We do that here too, especially in Halloween. We do a movie at night, and we'll work through, just like, we'll basically write it down. Like, what are we watching this year? And that's, with my girlfriend, she wasn't into horror at all. And we met kind of the tail end of fall. And that's when, I come around with, the crazy movies. And I think the first thing we sat down to watch was Tales from the Crypt, season 1 all the way through to season 7, just pretty much straight through, but yeah, that's a must for me, for sure. I got to watch a movie at night, Halloween. Yeah. Now, was that the HBO series? Like, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Cause I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but when I was a kid, there was Tales from the Crypt Keeper. That was like a Saturday morning cartoon. Yeah. So it was like a little anime, but I remember being like, I love this. And I remember my dad would be up watching. So I knew what it was, because my dad would be up watching Tales from the Crypt. So he's a decent guy, but some terrible parenting decisions. But like, I thought the Crypt Keeper was so cool. And like, like I said, it's just like I don't know. Do you feel like there's got to be like some kind of wiring in you as a person to kind of love them instinctually? because I think there's people out there that, like my wife, like she'll tolerate it. Like, you know, she was 8 months pregnant. We went to see the latest Halloween reboot.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'll go for you. But she was like, I hope I don't have this baby in the movie theater.
Yeah.
I'm like, this movie's going to be fucking awesome. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, man. Cause I grew up with like, I guess what you'd consider pretty punk rock parents. You know what I mean? Like I grew up with hardcore and metal but my mom was the horror fan in the family. My dad fucking hated it. And it wasn't really until I started really getting into kind of obsessed with horror that he started giving it, you know, more of a chance. But it was definitely, it's hard to say, man, because they raised me, and one loved it, one didn't, kind of like your wife, kind of tolerated it. But I just got my dad to watch Hatchet 1 through 4, and I felt like that was a huge win for me. But yeah, it's hard to tell, man. I know it's always been around since I was little.
For sure. Yeah, I remember. Oh man, because you mentioned Scream, and I must have been in. Because I am 36, so I must have been. I remember I was dating my middle school girlfriend, and we went to see that together, and like being familiar with like Freddy Krueger and being familiar with like Jason Voorhees and all that stuff. I like at that age, I think you even kind of realize like, okay, this is a special film. And then when you get older, you're like, oh, okay, I don't think I fully grasped it at the time. But like, how old were you when Scream came out? Because I feel like we're probably right around the same age.
I was born in 89. So okay. Scream was what? I think 96.
Yeah.
Mass. Like seven or 8. Yeah. So I must have been 7 or 8 at Adam's house. So I remember being a wee child, but yeah, man. And that's one of those movies too, that like, if you've already introduced to horror, like seeing it as young as you were in middle school, you probably appreciated it more. So, cause like the Randy character, like it's basically how to survive a horror movie, which makes that film so awesome.
Well, yeah. And I think for me too, and again, I don't think I realized it at the time, but it was like, oh, I relate to this so much because they're looking at these movies like I do, where it's, you know what I mean? Especially somebody like Randy who like, it's hard. You don't want to identify with Randy I mean, you live through the movie, but that for me, there's like do I want to identify to Jamie Kennedy really? But like watching is like, oh yeah, like they get the rules and they follow, you know, they understand the progression of these films, and it was kind of poking fun at. And again, I don't think I realized it till I was older, but when I was young, I was like, oh, this is cool. They like these movies the way that I do. You know what I mean? Which was kind of an interesting take, I think.
Yeah. And I think, that's probably how a lot of people feel too. I think people in our age group, probably right around that time when that movie was coming out, is when they, you know, if they watched them young when they were getting into them. But those style movies that were coming out at that time were so fun. I remember watching all those. I Know What You Did Last Summer. You know,
oh yeah, for sure. They're doing like a new TV series or something. They're rebooting it for TV.
I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, it'll probably be on like Freeform or something, but it's coming out.
Dude, I have to check that out. Is Jennifer Love Hewitt in it?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be like a fresh face, like kind of like, I don't know if you watched the Scream TV show that was on MTV. I watched a couple episodes and I was like, I can't.
Yeah, I tried, man. I have a. You know, the reboots and the bringing them back with that. It's hard for me. I give them all a chance. It's just a lot of them, I can't really, it's hard to separate them. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Especially if you like love it so much when you're a kid. What did you think about the 2018 Halloween?
Were you talking about the Rob Zombie one?
No, I'm talking about the I love.
Oh yeah.
I'm in the minority. I love the first one. I like the Rob Zombie Halloween. But I was talking about the one that kind of picks up the one that Danny McBride and I think it's David Gordon Green did.
Yeah, I think I've seen it once or twice, but I thought it was pretty good. I like that, and that's where I think is Halloween Kills picks up right where that one left off too.
And I think that's coming out October this year too.
Which that trailer was crazy, dude. Like that was pretty nuts. But yeah, I like that one. I think I'm in the minority as well because I think I think that it goes back to like the reboots and the redos. Like you either hate them or you love them. I'm indifferent about Rob Zombie doing Halloween. I liked the first one. The White Horse stuff kind of like threw me off a little bit. You know what I mean? And
yeah, the second one, I was like, I can't. Like I watched it and I didn't mind it, but I was like, I can't get it.
Yeah,
this doesn't.
But I mean, dude, I liked it. I liked that one. I liked the Rob Zombie one. But I was a fan of Rob Zombie stuff beforehand. You know what I mean? So I was kind of probably a little biased, but yeah, I thought it was good, man. I'm excited for Halloween Kills to come out and see what that's doing. And I think, dude, Candyman comes out soon. The remake of Candyman.
Yeah, that one looks. I just watched a clip today. They released a clip, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be killer. It's gonna be so good.
As long as Tony Todd's in it, man, that's all I care about.
I think he is. I looked at the IMDb page, and I think he is Candyman.
Yeah, because I watched. I forget where it was. I watched an interview where he said he got a contract, but he never heard back. So I was like, dude, I love Tony Todd, so that'd be a deal breaker. But if he's in it, I'm excited because I think we can go to theaters now responsibly. Yeah, so I'm pretty stoked on that to go to a theater, and it's been a long time since I've sat down and watched a horror movie there.
Yeah, I went and saw. Oh my god, what did we go see? The Conjuring 3, is that the third one?
Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd been in a movie theater, and there was like nobody there. But I was like, if I'm gonna go back to the movie theater, like this is what I want to go see.
Yeah.
The last time I remember going was the Halloween, the 2018 reboot, and then Devil Made Me Do It came out, and I have HBO Max. I was like, I could watch it on HBO Max, but I was like, we went on like a Wednesday night, and there was nobody. It was like $6 ticket and nobody there, and I was like, sure. And it was awesome. I just felt like a kid again, just being like, the lights come down, and now they have those like dope reclining seats and everything.
Yeah. That was a fun one, man. That movie opens really strong, and that's kind of what I need on a lot of movies. But the kid doing the contortionist shit on the table, like oh dude, yeah, you got me. Horror kids in movies, that's how, that and jump scares is how you get me real good. I can't do dead kids in movies, man.
You think it's the parent in you being like?
I think that's just it's because they're so innocent, like you know what I mean. And then when they're a ghost, it's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do here? Like you know what I mean?
Right. I can't. You're an evil kid, but you're still a kid.
Yeah. That and jump scares, man. I remember watching. And my mom will laugh at this because I used to watch horror movies. I was so obsessed with them, but I hated jump scares so much as a kid that I would watch them with my fingers in my ears. like this move here, like with the thumbs in your ears over your eyes, because it's coming. But I'd have to muscle through it. But yeah, I'm excited to get back in the theaters for sure.
Yeah, that's the fun for me is because I really enjoy. What I've noticed is when you go to horror films, it like builds. You think the scare is going to happen. Then there's like a moment of release and then the scare happens. So when I go to when I go to these movies, like my favorite thing for me to do is like kind of sit and be like, okay, it's not coming now, but like try to figure out, like I have a friend, my buddy Nate, we used to go all the time when we were kids. He was like, dude, you never jump. And I was like, that's because I'm always like, it's not coming now. It's okay. There it is. Like, so now my mother-in-law, on the other hand, if you want to get full on assaulted in a horror film with her, because she'll scream and just throw her arms out and slap you in the face. Or there'll be a jump scare and she'll just go, ugh, and like start hitting you in the chest. And I'm like, I'm like, don't fucking touch me, Stacy. I'm not.
Shout out Stacy.
Shout out to Stacy for sure. And she knows it too. But yeah, man, it's I don't know. I'm with you. I'm very excited. It's a bummer now that like the Delta variant is hitting so hard, because I'm hoping that like it doesn't delay it even longer. But just that feeling of being back and like having the big movie theater soda and like just in the seat and the smell of the place. It's I
standing up and the popcorn just falls off you. You know what I mean?
For sure. Well, and I kind of equate it. It's weird. It's like I think you and I are probably like the last generation who will remember what it's like to be in a Blockbuster. You know what I mean?
Dude,
And so, dude, but I have that fear of like with everything coming to like HBO Max, and you know what I mean? Like I watched the Suicide Squad, part of the Suicide Squad today in like 10-minute increments because I was just hanging out with a kid, you know what I mean? So she was doing something. But I like the fact that I could do that, but I also have this fear of like that there's going to be a generation that doesn't have that experience because everything is just going to be, you know, on your iPad or your smart TV or something like that, you know?
Yeah, I never really thought about it, man. That's a huge bummer because Blockbuster was the shit.
Dude.
Friday nights were lit back in the day, dude.
I still have my Blockbuster card. It's in my drawer. I showed my wife the other day. I worked there when I was a kid, when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So I like that. I do want to ask you this, speaking of Blockbuster, because that was one of the benefits of working there was you could kind of rent whatever you wanted. And so like anything I wanted to see, I'd just be like, oh, this looks interesting. Like I'll take it home. Was there a movie that you saw as a kid, like kind of searching out that horror, or like as a younger person that you couldn't make it through? Because I have one, but I always wonder, you know, for people who are into it as much as I am, if there was something that like you were just like, I can't do this.
Man, I can't think of one specifically, but I pretty much suffered through every movie that young. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'd cover my eyes and ears, but I had to see what was going on. You know what I mean? I had to sit through it. I can't recall one specifically. There was a lot. There was a whole bunch, man. I think I was desensitized really early on.
Sure. Yeah, there wasn't a lot that I couldn't get through, but I rented. I remember my dad talking about seeing The Last House on the Left, the original one, when he was a teenager.
Okay.
And just talking about like how scary it was, and like he was like, do yourself a favor, don't watch it because it's, you know, it's really intense. And so I was like, oh, well, I got to see this movie. You know what I mean? So yeah. I rented the original one and I brought it home, and it got to that scene in the woods. And, you know, I'd like trigger warning for people who are listening. I don't want to like get into anything that might like, you know, rattle anybody, but there's some sexual assault that's real graphic. And I was just like, I can't do this, dude. I remember I was working there, so I had to be like 16, and I was like, I can't fucking, this is, and it's shot like so guerrilla style that it almost feels like a documentary. And I think that's why I was just like, no, I can't. And I saw it again like years later after it, you know, I could like process stuff like that. But in that first watching, I was like, no, can't do it. I got to shut that off.
Yeah. And that stuff does, still to this day, we just watched this is my first watch full through of this movie, Cannibal Holocaust. And the emotions that you get just kind of, you know, because there's a lot of that going on, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But you know, still, I think that what scenes like that to this day still, you know, when you're younger, and then probably like in your 20s when you're going through like the kind of fuck it phase, it won't bother you. But then when you get older and settle down and you watch that and realize it's like damn, dude, you know?
Yeah. I don't think my brain could compute that kind of violence at that age. You know?
Yeah.
Just like,
yeah.
You know, and then you get older and like you've got kids and you've got, you know, like wives or girlfriends or anything, and you're like, ah, man, like I would fucking kill someone, you know what I mean? Which the parents do, which is, you know, the Cannibal Holocaust though is interesting. Like, you know, the whole story about them like having to like bring the actors to court in Europe to prove it wasn't it wasn't actually a documentary.
Yeah, that was that movie, and it's such like the things that were shot in, like it was a good movie. I'll just say that, like the way that it was done and what they were trying to accomplish with like the lost footage, and like I think it was done really well as far as like how, you know, because he goes back, like half the movie's him going to find the footage, you know what I mean, and then you get to see what happened. But yeah, they got a lot of shit. And during that time, there was so many different directors doing that, you know, Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Ferox, like there's so many out there at that time. But, you know, if they gripped them up like that, I mean, I guess they did it the best because that's what they were going for. You know what I mean? It was that original lost footage kind of vibe.
Yeah. And it's like, it's just crazy to think of a world, because I think of something like Faces of Death too, which is like, it's obvious, it's come out that it's like obviously all fake, and they've got, you can watch documentaries about people talking about how they like executed the scenes and stuff, like the monkey brain scene and all that stuff in the original one. But there's like, when it came out, people were just like, you have to see this because it's real. And I can't imagine. I mean, I guess now, because we know so much about, especially if you're into movies, but so much about like film tricks and things like that, to be in the 70s and see something like Cannibal Holocaust, or to see something like Faces of Death and just be like, I've never seen anything like this. This has to be real. You know what I mean? Because we're so far down the line that it's like, you watch it now, you're like, obviously this is,
Well, and also it was before the internet, so you were discussing that with just people around you. You know what I mean, and other people that were watching those kind of movies. But I definitely think that those movies came out and they wanted to target that kind of like shock film. Like, oh, you better not watch this. Keep it behind the beads at the video store kind of thing. But yeah, I think the internet changed a lot of that. You know what I mean? But yeah, that I remember that time period when all that was kind of popping off, and even those films, even when I was younger, were going around still like crazy. You know what I mean? And still today, they're still out there, the box set VHSs and things like that. But yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, my dad took me to see the Blair Witch Project. I'm from Michigan originally, and we went to a midnight showing in Royal Oak, and I just remember like it was at the very beginning of the internet, so it was like there was actually a website that you could go, like it made it look super legit and super efficient. Yeah. So like you go in, you're like, oh, this is crazy. Like these people really existed, and you know what I mean? And we went and saw it, and I remember I was like super spooked when we came up. My dad was like, that sucked. I was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I was, because it does such a good job of like keeping this like weird tension where you're waiting for something to happen. So the whole time you're just like, all clammed up. I was like, I was terrified. And I do think it's very anticlimactic, but it's still like that sense of dread for like 2 hours and 10 minutes. You know what I mean? You're just this uncomfortable state for so long,
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that movie being really, really terrifying, especially because that was before I saw any kind of lost film footage movies before that. Like that was kind of my intro to it, right? When I first started watching, the first kind of movies I saw like that was definitely Blair Witch. And then when that's the first time you're seeing like the shaky cams and her pointing the camera at her face and
her nose running.
Oh, dude. Like, especially as a young kid, you're like, oh my God, like what's going on here? But yeah, that was a good one. Actually, that was the first movie I got that got me into VHS collecting as like an adult. I was helping a buddy clean out a garage, and he had a box, and the one VHS that was in there was Blair Witch Project.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I just read a story about this guy that he's a VHS collector. I forget what state he was in, but they had all these VHS tapes, like thousands of them set to be destroyed because they're just like, people don't have VHS players anymore. And he was like, nope. And he took them all. So like now he's trying to figure out like how to organize. He's just got boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of VHS tapes in his garage. He's like, I got to figure out how to organize them. But have you seen that dude who turned his basement into like a full blown video store? Like he's got all the displays, and it's so, I don't know, man. There's something, I don't know. I don't know if it's like the AOL generation but just something about being the last group of people who really know what that's about. But it's just like, yeah, man, keep it going. Like that's fucking awesome.
That's what it's, that's what it is about, man. I'm real heavy in the VHS community, especially the horror community with VHS, man. And it's all about just keeping that media alive, keep the VHS, keep the drive-ins, you know what I mean? Like, let's save it all.
For sure. We'll talk a little bit about that because, I don't know if people are really aware of that community existing the way that it does, but like from what I understand, like there's like big like trade expo shows and all sorts of stuff where it's just people who have this old you know, and for kids listening, a VHS tape is square and you put it in a box, but
have fun with tracking, kids.
Yeah, for sure. But it's like, I think to some people it would kind of correlate as like, why would you save, oh God, what did they used to put into, before cassettes? It was like the 8-tracks, like, you know, people, those. So what is it about VHS and like that community that you feel like you gravitate to?
You know, for me, it's definitely the nostalgia, dude. Nostalgia, like a lot of the movies that I have, and I got shelves, but a lot of them are movies that I either had as a kid or wish that I had, or you know, movies that I've watched since I didn't, you know, I wasn't born yet, and I went and grabbed them on VHS from like online or, but for me, and I mean, it's definitely the nostalgia. You know what I mean? Like in this room right now, I've got like probably 5 VCRs ready to go, VCR TV combos. You know what I mean? Like it's all that. But yeah, dude, it's just sitting down and my girlfriend hates it sometimes because, like, for example, like Idle Hands. You remember that movie?
Oh, dude, Devon Sawa. That is one of my absolute favorite movies of all time.
Yeah,
what's the other guy's name? Penub, I forget what his real name is. He was in Daredevil, but he's the man. That's so
Jessica
good.
Alba, you know what I mean? Like
Eldon Henson, I think is his name. Yeah, Jessica Alba. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So good. I just watched it. It was on like Quibi or something, and I hadn't seen it in years. And I was like, I showed my wife, I was like, we got to watch this, because she was like, what the fuck movie is this? It's so good.
I got the itch, man. I was like, dude, I was asking her, I was like, you seen Idle Hands? She's like, no, what's that? And I was like, hold up. You know, and then I looked for it just as a quick watch, and it was like $3.99 to rent on Amazon. And I was like, nah, fuck that. And I straight went to eBay and just ordered the VHS. I was like, it'll be here soon. And then we'll, you know, but, you know, like that's what it is for me. I'd rather sit down and watch a VHS tape than digital. You know what I mean? Just like the whole process, you know what I mean? Be Kind, Rewind, you know, like sitting down and loading it into the, and it's also, I think, a love for, I've always been kind of into thrifting before this and things like that, but now it's grown to like, I go to thrift stores, go straight to VHS, like what you got. And, but definitely, yeah, man, nostalgia and that feeling, dude, having it. And I've recently gotten like, I feel like I've gone a level above the nostalgia drug, because now I'm hunting for like promo copies that they used to send to the video stores. And
for sure, or like the alternate cuts from like other countries and
stuff
like that.
Yeah, dude, that's really been my thing now, is like I love it, because I think it was I grabbed one of like Night of the Demons 2, and it was like my first promo screener I'd ever gotten, and I popped it in, and it's like, it's literally the sales team from that studio telling them where to place it in the store. And when they come into your video store, have this prop, you know, right here by the counter. And it's just like, dude, I remember that. Like, I remember seeing this shit, and it's like, you know, but that's what it is for me, man. It's all about like, it's a lot of nostalgia. And I feel like too, at a point, like, you know, with the older movies, like late 70s, 80s, you know, early 90s, like I feel like that's how they were supposed to be watched, you know, kind of like when you listen to a vinyl, you know what I mean? They recorded it to press it to vinyl. You know, with VHS, I feel like before there was DVD, Blu-ray, you know, streaming, like they knew that this is what it was supposed to be, you know?
Yeah. So it's, and that's a really good, I think that's a really good comparison, because like there's a warmth, like when you listen, even if a band now, even if they do like you know, you can go on Spotify and listen to it, but if they do like a vinyl pressing, there's a warmth to the vinyl that you don't get in that like MP3 or like the streaming format. And it's funny too, man, because with Idle Hands, for example, like my VCR broke, and I remember I had a VHS camcorder, so I could put my VCR broke, but I fucking love that movie. So and I would watch it through the eye hole, just because I was like, I have to like watch this movie. And it's I'm wondering, is there almost like a sense of responsibility where it's like, because obviously you love it, you love the nostalgia aspect, you love the the collecting, like the piece of your childhood and stuff like that. But is there almost like a gatekeeper or historian level to it where it's like, okay, well, if people like me don't do this, then this disappears?
Nah, I mean, I don't want it to go anywhere, but like at no, I'm not. I feel like we're doing a good job. You know what I mean? As far as like, because the community is huge, and that's one of the things that kind of drew me to is everybody was so cool. Because before I did coffee, I just had a VHS tape Instagram. You know what I mean? Where I met so many people, but I mean, I think it's everybody that's in VHS feels that way. But I truly feel like it's become just like almost like an obsession. Like I gotta have everything on VHS. You know what I mean? Everything on VHS, but definitely, I think to a point. But I personally think it's back on the rise. There's a lot of companies out there, like smaller companies that are doing like officially licensed reprints and redistributing VHS. I think it was Retro Release Video just did Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, damn.
Just like a legit official re-release. So I think yeah and no, but I think definitely it's coming back. Like I think that we're doing a good enough job, and I in no way, shape, or form think like I'm anyone that should. There's definitely people that have been in it longer and way more passionate about it, I think, but than I am. But I think definitely it's we're making a mark.
Yeah, and I mean, I got to think too, like, when you're a dad like me, when your kids are older, it's, again, kind of showing them this like piece of history. I don't know. It's just, it's one of those things where it's like, I have such fond memories, like, Family Video went out of business, so I can say this now, but I've got like Family Video, you know what I mean? Like, I would get stuff and be like, I don't want to fucking take this back. And then I end up having it forever. So yeah. Sorry, Family Video, but I've still
and that just happened recently, dude. I think they shut them down where I'm located, and that's it's a bummer, dude. You know what I mean? Like it really is, because that was a big piece of everybody's Friday night. You'd go get the 5-day rental and the new release, and then you know what I mean. That was your weekend right there.
Dude, and they were so cool with late fees. You could have like $1,000 in late fees, and they'd be like, "What do you want to pay? You want to pay like $6?"
Yeah,
cool. Like, go ahead, because they were like,
"Pay anything."
Literally, before they went out of business, they were like, "We do rentals and CBD, so you could like go in and get like CBD vapes and all, like they just were like anything to keep the fucking lights on." Like,
yeah, I can see it.
Come in and get a movie and an eighth of whatever. It's crazy, but. Well, I wanted to ask you, so, okay, horror films, right? Obviously, you've got that love. Where did the idea for the coffee company come from, and what sparked you to kind of merge the two together? Because, seeing what you do and seeing, following you on Instagram and hearing you talk about it and in conversations that we've had before, it's very obvious that you have a passion for it, but and it makes sense when you see it. But I think if somebody would have like, if you would have gone to Folgers and been like, I've got this fucking great idea, you know what I mean? Yeah. It almost doesn't sound like it would work on paper, but you managed to pull it off. So like, talk about the idea for the company, and then how did you kind of come up with the idea to combine the two?
Yeah, so I mean, before I got into like really deep into coffee and roasts and beans and processing and things like that, I just started with I got an espresso machine, man. And if anyone's used an espresso machine, you open it and you're like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? And then I had to learn, about, I think I just got on Google and I was like, how to make espresso, you know what I mean? And then it kind of just snowballed, and that was a couple of years ago. And then it just kind of snowballed into different brewing techniques. And then I got a pour over, and it really just started with me. The coffee passion was like, I started with manual brewing and got, I kind of stopped using the drip coffee and just kind of fell in love with the process of making coffee manually, pour overs, espresso shots. And then I got to making fun drinks with, my girlfriend, my friends. And then like I said, getting into I didn't know there was such a community, a horror community. I really didn't. And then, social media, of course, it connects everybody. And then I just got to the point, man, where I was like, I knew I wanted to do something, you know what I mean? And the two things that I love the most, horror and coffee, how can I figure out how to merge those? And then, I was talking to my dad one day and I just said the name out loud. I was like, what if the Camp Crystal Latte? He was like, you should fucking do that. And he's like dead serious. He was like, you should fucking do that. And I was like, okay. And I called my brother and I was like, yeah, I got this idea. And he was, super supportive as well. And of course my girlfriend was, she's been my rock, you know what I mean? So she was like, there was no question from her. And I just kind of went for it. You know what I mean? And I remember, dude, we were sitting there, when we launched, I had 2 coffees and I was sitting there like by the laptop. You know what I mean? I put the post up on Instagram
for orders. You're like, come on.
I was like, please just let me fucking make my money back. You know what I mean? Like, cause it was literally just an idea, 2 things that I think that I could do the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Like, I'm tired. I'm just like working a 9 to 5, you know what I mean? Burnt out every day. And I was like, I love horror. I love coffee. I could do this forever. And then we launched and I think we launched 2 coffees and a shirt, March 31st. And then it was like I said, man, I was sitting by the laptop with my girlfriend, like, oh God, please let me make my money back. Please just let me make my money back. And it was like, it just took off, dude. It grew to a point now where it's like, I'm so grateful for like everybody that fucks with me even like a little bit, you know what I mean? Cause it's like, this is really, what I want to do, you know what I mean? And I couldn't do it without people supporting, like, having me on podcasts like you're doing right now and following and engaging with Instagram. And, but that's really where it came from, man.
Well, that's awesome, man. And that's, I got to tell you too, that's one of the things that I really respect about what you do is it's very apparent that you love it. And that there's a real passion behind it, but like there's an extra layer of respect for people who just fucking grind. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like people that are like, I work a 9 to 5, but I have such a passion for what I do where it's like, all right, yeah, I've got, I work 9 to 5. I've got kids, I've got a relationship, but I still have to make sure that I care about this so much that I have to invest time into this. And then I think having those supportive people in your life, I couldn't have a podcast if my wife wasn't like, yeah, it's cool, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just having those people in your life to kind of push you to follow those things that you have that passion for. I wanted to ask, so like, okay, you're like, I'm going to do a coffee company, right? And I've got this great idea. Camp Crystal Latte is a great name. It's a great play on the, Friday the 13th for folks who may not be like super horror fans that are listening. But so you've got this great idea, right? But like, you can't make coffee without beans, right? So talk to me a little bit about like, okay, now I've got this idea. How do you start that process? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you get the Camp Crystal Latte, like beans and all that?
Yeah. So we were already pretty in tune with kind of the local coffee community and different roasters and friends, that I have and I've met along the way. But a lot of our green beans were coming from online. And to be honest with you, I'd say after like our 3rd coffee, it just became to where we were having to contact those friend roasters that could handle a bigger load because what we're doing at our shop, we just didn't have we weren't, it grew faster than we were ready for it. You know what I mean? As far as the equipment we have. So, but yeah, definitely we just started online, man, just Google, and a lot of the beans and the roasts that we have today, with what we put out so far, it's just stuff that we've liked and we've kind of played around with and tinkered around with in the past. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. And it's, I don't know, man. I think there's an extra level of respect with it too, because, we went through this like giant lockdown, you know what I mean? And so many people were like, I'm going to learn how to crochet, or I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna get an exercise bike. So, and then, you see people who buy all the stuff and then they just are like, okay, and so to see somebody who, because I mean, you must have been working, you must have been working on this through the lockdown to like get all the art ready and have, you know what I mean? So when it was time to drop, like I imagine you've invested all this work in it up until that point.
Yeah. And that was kind of a goal of mine, man, honestly, with, COVID's awful. And, a lot of people lost a lot through that first lockdown, you know what I mean? And it just became when that, I'm a homebody anyway, you know what I mean? I enjoy being at home, but I knew that with COVID and everything that was happening, like I wanted to be as productive as possible. You know what I mean? I had this idea, and we linked up with our first artist, like literally just a DM through Instagram. Like I saw a poster that he made, actually the original Roasted in Hell artwork that for the espresso that was put on there was I think it was like he did it for Fandango.
Okay.
He did it for them as a movie poster, and I think it was like a finalist but didn't make it, and that was one of those things where I just started kind of throwing out DMs during the pandemic, and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna all this stuff's going on in the world, you know what I mean? I'm gonna focus and just kind of grind through it and just kind of see what happens. And this is where it took us, you know. 6 coffees later, and aside from the coffees, man, just the people that we've met, to be honest, like not to sound cheesy or anything, but like I'd say like 95% of our customer base is like people we talk to all the time, you know, in the comments and DMs, you know what I mean? Like we're real big on that, you know what I mean? Like wanting to make it as, you know, we're writing notes all the time and like just really trying to stay connected, because it really is like a huge thank you to everybody, you know, for like I said, picking up beans and messing with us.
Yeah, man. And that's one thing that I think is really cool too, is that like, you know, and again, you can follow Camp Crystal Latte on Instagram at Camp Crystal Latte, and we'll link everything up in the show notes. So watching on YouTube or listening or anything like that. But it's cool to see when you guys rolled out, and as the new blends and stuff have come out, it's cool to see the community, because you'll like throw all that, you'll repost everything in your Instagram story. So it's cool to see like and again, it's not even just people that are like, I love coffee, but it's like this certain like subsect of people that are like, I fucking love coffee and I love horror films, and like you just do it for us, you know what I mean? So it's people are very creative with like, you know, you'll see your bag of coffee. I think it was I think it was a repost, but the guy dressed as Michael Myers just holding the bag. Like, yeah, dude. Yeah. That's a lot of creativity.
Yeah. And that's crazy, because you don't know who's, you know, his group. I think he goes by the Dark Shape, but you know, his wife was buying coffee from us, you know, pretty regularly. And then that, you know, it turns out that her husband's actually like this huge cosplayer, and, you know, he's got a group of friends and they cosplay. And, but like, yeah, man, we love seeing that stuff. Like we really enjoy it, because it's like, it's crazy, right? Cause you know, you have this idea, you put it out there and people like it. And I'd say most, but it's something that we're working on, but I think most of our Instagram right now is like just pictures people sent us of the coffee and like what they're doing with it, like how they set it up with their VHS tapes, or like, that's you right. know, we got one guy on there, Eric. He every time we come out with a coffee, he sets like a different display up, you know, of like his collection of that movie. So it's been cool, man. It's been a real cool way to connect with everybody.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's nice. Like I grew up playing in bands, and it was like, you know, the beginning of like the MySpace days and stuff like that. But it was
the golden era of being in a band.
You know, yeah, before it became like the two separate bubbles of information. It was like, who are your top 8 and what's your song going to be? You know what I mean? But but like playing in bands and then and kind of building a community around that, not just with people who came out to the shows, but like the other bands that you played with and stuff like that, was all part of the fun of it. Or like, you know, just as big as making the music, but kind of like building this community. I mean, that, you know, the word scenes and stuff like that, but like, yeah. So it's got to be cool to kind of feel like you found a place amongst this group of people, you know?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this, your artwork, and I know you work with different artists and stuff like that, but the artwork is insane. And when I saw it, I was like, how the hell or like, because you think of like copyrights and shit like that, you know what I mean? So I'm like how do you manage to fly under the radar with something like the Candyman light roast? You know what I mean? Like that art is awesome. So it's like, how do you kind of manage to get that point across without being like, let me step on these corporate toes? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think honestly it just comes down to our audience, right? Because like there's a lot of people that kind of do similar to what we do, as to where, you know, very, very selective with like the names and the things like that. And some work, some don't. But it really, I think that with our audience, they, you know, cause like with the Candyman light roast, like, yeah, I could have just said Candyman, you know what I mean? But like real, like when I had that roast and we were developing, you know, that single origin, that sweets to the sweet, you know, from Candyman is what came to me, not Candyman, you know what I mean? Right. Like, and it really is just kind of, you know, flying under the radar as much as you can. But at the same time, you know, we've had companies reach out and, we just comply. If they don't want to sell us the license or work with us, you know, we'll just take it down. You know what I mean? That's, we've had that happen with one coffee so far, which was a huge bummer because it was a real fun one.
Let's shame these pieces of shit. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. It was the Jitter Juice, and the company that owns rights to, I don't know if they own all the rights, but they own rights to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're kind of known for that, you know what I mean? And we walked into it as very, you know, we always look for licenses, but if anyone has any guys, you know, like anyone has a guy that can get us in touch with intellectual property licensing and stuff, because it's really hard to like get in touch with somebody. But yeah, we just kind of fly under the radar. If people don't like what we're doing, or, you know, they claim it, we take it down. We're not going to fight with anybody. And if they don't want to work with us or sell us a license, I mean, it is what it is. You know what I mean? We'll keep it rolling.
Yeah. Now, what is that like? Because I imagine like when you're like, I'm going to start a coffee company, you're not like, and I'm going to work, you know, to get all of these, you know, licensing. I have to buy these like licensing agreements and stuff like that. So is there anything that like doing all this, I guess, like that you were surprised by or didn't anticipate that you would have to do, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, fuck?
No, man, honestly, the everything's been pretty chill right now. And the way that you know, we want to get into the official licensing, all of it, like as much as I can, as much as I need to, I'll say that. But I think it's just a part of scaling a business, right? You know, like literally when we started, it was, you know, very small, you know, but yeah, we only had that one issue, you know what I mean? It was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the way that I won't say the studio name, but the way that they came at us was very, like shitty. They just started flagging everything on Instagram that had Leatherface in it. You know what I mean? And so they didn't even come at us legally. They were just trying to take down our just, you know, our community. Yeah. Just, and, you know, I reached out to them. They just didn't want to, you know, they just basically left me on red. So we just pulled it, which we're thinking about what we want to do. Cause the Jitter Juice roast, the blend itself, is personally one of my favorites. And I know it was a lot of people's favorites. And, shout out to Puis Calzada, man, cause he killed that label, like absolutely killed it. And yeah, it was a real bummer.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine, like, you know, we put the podcast up on YouTube, so I have to be like very careful. You know, we can't like show certain images or anything, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's got to be a bummer when you work so hard on something. You're like, this fucking looks awesome. And then, you know, all of a sudden it's like, God damn it, I can't use this for anything, you know?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it definitely is a bummer, because I that was one that I was really excited for. But at the same time, like the reason I like the creative part of it, you know what I mean? So like by the time that one's already launched, I'm already thinking like of 3 more that I know I want to do, as far as coffee. So, I mean, yeah, it's a bummer, and more so a bummer for the, you know, like like I said, like that was the label on that was amazing. And I just can't, we can't use it anymore, but I just like the creative part, man. As long as I can keep creating and doing this, it's just, we'll keep it trucking,
For sure. Well, I wanted to ask you this, because ideally, you're like me where we work 9-to-5 jobs and then, we have these like little passion projects. Mine just happens to be like sitting in a room by myself and talking to people on the internet. But, you pour a lot of time in it. You pour a lot of effort into it. There's, I know for us, it's like, I have shout out to Mat Halliday who makes all of our episodes sound well. He's my partner in Michigan, but, you start something with the hope that it will grow, and you start as like you're the person doing it. Like I do all the booking and everything for that, and it's just people that I want to talk to, or people that I think like you with your hustle, just like you have this idea and then you execute flawlessly, and you're getting it out there and getting to see this grow. So for you, what does the future look like? What does Camp Crystal Latte look like 10 years down the road?
So on the schedule now, of course, the biggest thing that we're doing is the online sales, and really we led with that because, when we started the company, we basically started it with stimulus money. You know what I mean? Like we it was not a lot of money going into it. And, really where we want to get to. And I think the end game here is, we want to have a Camp Crystal Latte location, a full roastery and coffee shop. But man, it's just that I think that's really where we want to go for the end game. And then right now, what we're working on actually is, I don't think I've mentioned this anywhere, is that we're working on a mobile coffee trailer.
Oh, hell yeah.
For Camp Crystal Latte. Because it's starting to get to the point to where we're kind of getting invited out to events and things like that. So we got, we're eyeing coffee trailers. We want to get to where we just have like this spooky contraption that pops up places, with just, the sign and things like that. Really just want to encapsulate the horror into the trailer. And then, but yeah, I think that's really where we're at right now, is keep online stuff going, keep the community strong and tight, and then coffee trailer and then a store. It's just really hard to say with everything going on, because we wanted to do the store like immediate, like look into it like immediately, but really just with COVID going on, it's just kind of hard to pull the trigger on that right now.
Yeah. And thinking about like a brick and mortar location at a time, I'm sure that there's a lot of hesitation. I'll tell you what, man. Have you heard of Nightlife 615?
I haven't, no.
So in Nashville at Centennial Park, they do I think it's Centennial Park. Is Centennial Park where the Parthenon is, or am I tripping?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, it's not Centennial Park then. I'll shoot you the information, but they do outdoor movies. So like they're doing Hocus Pocus this year because because of COVID they start. It's usually a summer series, but because of COVID they kind of launched a little bit later, so they're going to be doing something in early fall. I think they might be doing The Shining or something like that. But they do, like, you buy a ticket, you show up, put your blanket out, but they have all these different food trucks and like different beer brewers and stuff like that. And when you were talking about having a mobile unit, I'm like, oh hell yeah. Like if you guys were there when they were doing like Hocus Pocus or The Shining, or I think they did Scream at one point.
Yeah.
You guys would fit in perfectly. I don't know, man. It's crazy to have this, like, it's weird because it's almost like it's a small niche, but it's a small niche that just seems to have this huge reach. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like an oxymoron in itself. But it's really interesting. I think it's super cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And that's because we just got invited. I think our first one's going to be March 2022 in FrankenCon near Knoxville. We just got invited to do that. And, like I said, man, we're going to start right then, probably start looking into the equipment we need to be able to actually make coffee for people. and then kind of go from there, build out a trailer and get to those spots. Cause it's funny because like, as I get so much satisfaction out of like the creation part of it, like just thinking of people coming to the trailer and they're being like, animatronics or like smoke or like, you know what I mean? Like a VHS playing with, a movie on it, like that's really like what keeps me like kind of pushing. That's the motivation. It's just kind of like that reaction. Cause I think horror really, to your point, like it's niche, but also like if you are into it, like you're into it. You know what I mean? There's very few people that are like, oh, kind of like scary movies. Like everyone I've met's either like, no, I love horror. Like, you know what I mean? Or I don't, it's one or the other.
Yeah. And I think it's cool for what you do because it helps you. It feels like it would help you very easily like identify and market to your fan base because it's people that are just like, yeah, man, I'm all about this life. So I'm going to fuck with you. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. It's my friend Jessica Gomez. She writes for All Horror. She's been on the show a couple times, but we were kind of talking about it as like, most movies or most film, like if you think about a comedy, like, there's like buddy comedy or like action comedy or stuff like that. So there's a tree aspect. It's like, here's the comedy, romantic comedy, blah, blah, blah. And all these trees are pretty decent size. But then you think about horror films and it's like, okay, like Jaws. Is Jaws a horror film or is it a suspense thriller? You know what I mean? But it fits on this tree. So when you look at, if you had them all lined up, it's like the horror tree would be the biggest because there's so many like different directions that you can go with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's got to be fun to be able to build a community because there's so many places to pull from in that specific genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's been cool, man. It's been a real, like I said, just connecting with everybody and seeing how many people love this as much as we do, has just been awesome, man. And I think as it keeps going, like we'll keep pumping them out, as long as people want them, we'll keep doing it. Cause we got, like I said, we got a lot of cool stuff planned for October. We actually have some cool stuff planned for December too. We've been working on some good ones, some obscure films, some films everybody loves.
Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Hey. Yeah, that one's definitely. I think we can probably count on that for December.
For sure.
That movie's that's a banger. But yeah, we're man, we just keep trucking. Keep doing our thing.
For sure, man. Well, I really appreciate you. Number one, I appreciate what you do. Like I said, there's something about people who put in that hustle and then to have like a seed of an idea and then to be able to watch it grow. Cause it's like, I found out about you before you launched.
Yeah.
We were doing the promotion. So to like see you start this thing and then just to watch the community blow up, like you're one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram because people are so engaged with what you do. So I wanted to say thank you for coming on. Thank you for hanging out.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you for sharing your passion. And for people who are listening, if they want to check out the coffee, if they want to buy a bag, if they want to interact with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, definitely. If you're wanting to purchase, campcrystallatte.com. But like I said, we have a lot of fun on Instagram. We love connecting with people, talking, chatting back and forth. So yeah, at Camp Crystal Latte and campcrystallatte.com.
Awesome. And guys, make sure if you're listening or if you're watching on YouTube, go to the show notes, buy a bag. If you have a French press, the dark roast is really, really good. I need to re-up. My wife is not a super dark roast, so it lasted me a little bit longer than I thought. So I'm excited to try some of the new blends. And
yeah.
Again, man, I just really appreciate you doing it. And will you stick around for me for a minute after we wrap up? Yeah, you got it, man. Thanks for having me on. Hey, man, you got to come back again. Let's do an October thing. It'll be fun. Oh yeah, I'm down, dude. I'm down. For sure. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. This is episode number 60. Appreciate you spending some time with us this week, and we will see you at the next one.